This is your weekly sports fix with Stix.
What's up, everyone? We are back. I got the man, Mark Sutich, back with us. Mark, my guy, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. Excited.
Yeah.
We took a month off, so I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, someone, I won't point any fingers. Chris, the producer, decided he needed a vacation or some sort of shit like that. I don't know. But
Yeah,
you know,
needs those.
We appreciate you, Chris. Just messing with you there, buddy. You definitely deserve that family vacay. That was pretty cool. But yeah, we missed the last one, UFC 260. So we're gonna get you some UFC 261 for sure. So don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Go to thisisfunner.com for more podcasts and online content. While you're there, grab some freaking merch. Pretty dope stuff from the Funner family. Follow me on Twitter at Stix015 and use that hashtag Stix in Sports to join the conversation and get us some questions. Like I said, Mark is back in the house, well, at his house. And, we're just, we missed the 260 fight, but we're going to get to the 261, hey, that happens every once in a while, we don't get to talk about, we don't get to talk about all of these fights in between. So hopefully everybody's been watching all those as well. So Mark, everything good going on down there in the South Washington?
South. It's not even, I'm still King County. Yeah, but yeah,
South of me.
Good. Yeah, we're doing well. Weather obviously turned, but yeah, it's been a good week and
great weather up here
good.
In the Pacific Northwest for sure. So I know there was a big Triller event this weekend, right? For those of you who don't know, I don't even know if this is the right word, and I don't care if I get thrown under the bus or people take shots at me, but Triller, aka a circus act, from everything that I've seen and read and heard, and just look at this. I know you watched it, Mark. You got it. You could tell everybody a little bit about it. And then I'll put in my 2 cents. I have a couple things, but yeah. What do you know? What do you think? What do you think of the Triller Circus?
So I wasn't gonna buy it, and I buy all that shit usually. Combat.
You got the rough and rowdy, right? That one time? Did you get the rough and rowdy? Oh no. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No. So I was kind of on the fence. I was like, no. And anyway, my father-in-law was in town. He's like, let's watch the YouTube guy and the UFC guy. And I was like, fine, whatever. So he threw me some money. It was cheaper than normal, like UFC pay-per-view. So screw it, we'll do it. So then as we're watching it, I don't know if you heard, but the intro was Snoop Dogg smoking weed with Urkel. And
oh, God.
It was a skit. And it was pretty funny, but like that was kind of a sign of things to come, right? It was definitely more of an entertainment push. Like, we had the UFC fights on in one room and then the Triller card on the pay-per-view in the other room. And I go in and it would be Justin Bieber singing or Snoop Dogg singing or whoever, they had all these musical acts. So I think circus fits it. Frank Mir, a former MMA fighter, former champ, fought a legit boxer, Steve Cunningham. And he looked good. I mean, Mir did good for an MMA fighter boxing, but he still got smoked. I mean, he lost by decision. But there was Oscar De La Hoya was on another level, dude. And like,
I heard he was all just.
I mean, I was texting my buddy. I was like, "What is going on right now?" And even my brother-in-law was over. I was like, "What?" He was literally. He's like, "I love the jab, double jab, triple jab, double jab, love the jab." And I was like, "Whoa, this guy is all over the board." Like, so there was no professionalism, and I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just, there was no professionalism from the commentating. I mean, Snoop Dogg was cussing up a storm. If you've seen the highlight of Jake Paul knocking out Ben Askren, I watched it today again, and Snoop Dogg was going crazy. So F-bomb this and F-bomb that. It was fun. But yeah, I mean, it was MMA fighters think they can box, and it's different. Yeah. It's a different sport. Now, if you inverse it or reverse it, you put a boxer in an MMA cage, and MMA rules are going to get smoked. James Toney, like, I think Tim Sylvia got knocked out in a non-UFC MMA fight by forget the guy's name, but a big heavyweight guy. But still, I mean,
It's a different.
It's just a different sport. But the problem is a lot of these MMA guys don't know if they have a chip on their shoulders. They think they're, better than they are. I mean, it just. But Ben Askren is not a striker. If you've seen him strike, I mean, he's awful. Now, you put a real, a decent striker. Anderson Silva is boxing Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. On my birthday, actually, in June. So. I don't like that fight either. I don't know. These boxers fighting, it's just tough. It's tough for MMA guys to cross over and win.
I'm no professional boxer or whatever, and I haven't watched, a lot of, I did get the Conor Mayweather pay-per-view,
Everyone
of course.
did. Yeah.
But I still haven't watched. I've been watching a little bit of the Fox Sports. I think they have some actual boxing on there. I did watch, Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Those guys are just in a different level. But from, like you said, Askren is definitely not a striker. I for sure thought that he would. I thought he had a chance for some reason, and I'm no professional, but Jake Paul isn't no joke. I mean, I don't think he's great, but I don't think he's bad. And did you see the little clip of Tyron Woodley in the locker room against Jake Paul before Jake Paul was wrapping his hands, and Jake Paul's boys were all talking smack to Woodley, and Woodley was just basically saying, I don't play. So now
Woodley always says that.
Yeah, there's a lot,
and he's lost how many fights in a row? Like, stop.
Well, that was kind of my question to you. It's kind of what I was thinking is, I mean. Woodley's
he will never lack confidence.
And he's lost like how many in the UFC? So do you think it's time for him to, if he wants to run his mouth?
Yeah, I'm tired of, I think MMA guys need to stop calling out Jake Paul. Jake Paul, if you're a real boxer, box a boxer.
Yeah. So do you think
box a boxer?
Do you think Woodley is the next guy in line for this?
No,
maybe
not at all.
No,
not at all.
He won't step up. Or
I don't
won't
think
won't take it. Jake Paul won't take it.
I don't see the point. I mean, from Jake Paul, because they're trying to call out like Conor and stuff. He wants money, and I get it.
Yeah.
But one thing about Askren was 190 pounds.
Right, I saw
fighting, and he normally fights at 170, and you put a little weight on after the weigh-in. And Jake Paul's calling out Conor McGregor. Really, you're 190 pounds, Jake Paul, and you're calling out little guys.
Yep.
How about you fight Francis Ngannou, fight John Jones, fight Glover Teixeira. I don't care. Anyone, Anthony Johnson, anyone that's over 190 pounds.
Yep. 100%.
And run your mouth in. You're calling up Dylan Dennis. Dylan Dennis can't freaking. He can barely throw a jab. He's a great jiu-jitsu guy.
Not a boxer.
But the problem is it did 1.3, and I'm one of the idiots, right? 1.3 million buys, and so. He just thinks he's going to, hey, if non-boxers are going to keep signing on for these big paydays, because Askren did get like $500,000, right, at least, and that's not even the pay-per-view buy part, then why wouldn't he? I mean, it's a smart business decision for Jake Paul. Whether I like it or not, if people are going to keep wanting to fight him.
Right. Yeah, I mean, why not go for the money? I mean, nothing wrong with that. So let's talk about some real fighters. We did miss the UFC 260, and I do want to hear about what you thought of your boy Stipe versus Ngannou in that main event, and what do you think is next for Stipe? Yeah,
so when he weighed in, I think he was 10 pounds lighter than he was the first time he fought Ngannou. But he was around the weight when he fought not Couture, when he fought Cormier.
Right.
Last summer. So he had fought it that way before, but not find a guy like Ngannou. Ngannou, he lost Derek Lewis fight that I was at, super boring. But since then, not only was he knocking people out, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure he knocked 4 guys out in a total of 2.5 minutes or something stupid. Like, he wasn't he wasn't just winning. Everyone's like, oh, he's just sloppy, he's just winning
5 fights in a row or something like that were just
he was finishing people. Like, divide that up, 2.5 minutes divided by 4 or 5 or whatever it is, it's like less. It's ridiculous. So he was on a tear. He deserved the shot. I thought it was a scary proposition for Stipe. I don't care that he beat him once. It's a scary fight when you're fighting a guy with one punch power. And I thought Stipe's game plan, like when he went for a takedown and he didn't get it, I was like, oh, that could be bad. But one thing I noticed with Ngannou at the end of the first round, his mouth looked open, like he was already getting kind of tired. And so I think the game plan was probably in some capacity, however you do it, get the gas tank down. And it's a smart strategy.
Make him go longer than 1 or 2 rounds for sure.
Yeah, like he did last time. But because even that first round last time, it wasn't, he won it, but he still took shots. It wasn't like he was able to take him down easily. It was the later rounds as Ngannou started to tire. Ngannou was patient, and Stipe thought he clipped him, and he came in quick and got hit with, I think it was like a jab. But when you're coming in like that right on the chin, and
when you're getting a jab from a heavyweight, it's no normal jab, right?
Yeah. So it sucked, but I wasn't shocked. I mean, it's one of those things. As far as what's next, I wanted to retire, honestly. I mean, I have no say, but keep your legacy intact. What I don't like is, Chuck Liddell had 3 or 4 losses in a row towards the end, and Anderson Silva. You get a couple other names that I want to mention, but my buddy will get mad at me, so I won't mention those names. But you get these guys at the end of their time, and it just Father Time's undefeated, right? And so it just comes. And you don't know when it's going to come. And Stipe's been knocked out 3 times, or finished 3 times, 2 pretty violently in the last couple of years, and he's considered right now the greatest heavyweight of all time, especially in the UFC. He's got a fireman job. He's got plenty of money, I'm sure, and he lives in Cleveland. I don't think cost of living is enormous there. So, right off in the sunset. I know from a competitive standpoint, he probably doesn't want to go off on a loss, but I don't want to see him go on a skid and tarnish his legacy.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. I was wondering the same thing. Like, I was wondering, like, what type of person, not what type of person he is, because I think he's a stand-up guy, 100%, Stipe is, and he could walk away right now with being the greatest heavyweight of all time in the UFC for sure. And it just seems to me like and I think he just had another baby as well. So I think he has 2 maybe. So, he could definitely walk away. And I hope that I'm with you there. I hope that he just kind of says, you know what, I think this is done. I don't want to see him fight Ngannou again, like, the 3rd time, like he did DC. I think it'd be a different matchup. I mean, I'm not saying that Stipe can't win that, but like you just said, I don't want him to go out on another loss and then say I'm done. But then again, I also see his side of, if he were to do that, I see that side of it as well. Maybe you win it, but then it keeps you around again. You know what I'm saying? Then you have to defend it. You don't have to, but more than likely you'll want to defend it. And then if you lose again, kind of thing. So I just hope he just says, you know what, I did everything I could for you guys, and here we go, got paid well, and can live a happy life. He's got the firefighter job for sure. So
he's 38. He's not a kid.
Yeah.
So
100%, bro. 100%. Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on that, Mark, because I knew we were excited about talking about that for a while in the UFC 260, and it just didn't work out. So, hey, but we got UFC 261 now. And excuse me. And so early prelims start at 2:45 on Saturday. Everybody better tune in. It's going to be fun fights. And then we got the prelims, the prelims with 4 fights. And again, who knows what order these in. And again, before, disclaimer, everybody, disclaimer, as we always say, these are before the weigh-ins. Who knows if someone's going to get pushed and get a concussion and a broken vertebrae or whatever.
That was crazy.
So in the face-offs. So here we go. The prelims, we have a featherweight battle between Patrick Sabatini, 13-3, 9 subs, 220 favorite, and Tristan Conley plus 190 underdog. And I believe this is Conley's second fight in the UFC. I'm just going to go straight into it, Mark, because I think you got a couple things on these guys, or one of these guys at least. I'm going to stick with the boy Sabatini on this one.
Yeah, so Tristan Connolly coming off a 19-month layoff, and his UFC debut, I believe his short notice was at welterweight. This is at featherweight. And I think I don't know if he's fought featherweight before, but I think he's fought lightweight prior to UFC. He had neck surgery, but it's interesting. So he's got 13 of 14 wins by finish. He actually fought up here because he's from Victoria, British Columbia. So he fought at the Emerald Queen Casino, the Cage Warriors? No, not Cage. I forget what it's called. But the stuff down at the Emerald Queen.
The boat?
And
yeah.
It's not the boat's
not
the
the
boxing.
boat.
I
know.
don't know why I'm Cage Sport. Cage Sport MMA.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he's fought locally. I don't think I went to one of those cards. But what's interesting is, so Pat Sabatini, to your point, 13-3. Love this kid. He's from my favorite AAA organization, CFFC, where people lose fingers on April 1st. It's not fake.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
But oh man, that was brutal.
Anyway, brutal. You guys got to YouTube that, or Twitter that or something, and check out
just the
MMA
reaction
fighter who lost his finger.
And it got reattached, so all's good in the world. And he didn't even care. Those Russian guys just don't give a shit. But anyway, so Sabatini, he's a minus 220 favorite making his UFC debut. And at a record at 13-3, it's a little deceiving, right? Like a lot of these guys come in, are undefeated, one loss. So he lost really early in his career. But in the last 6 years, he does have 2 losses. One was by split a couple of years ago. And then one last year. I think it went viral, but he was the champion in CFFC. Basically, if he wins, he's going to get to call the UFC. This is a year ago. Gets caught in an armbar, doesn't tap, gets his elbow completely dislocated, gets out of it, and then his arm's just kind of hanging there, and they stop the fight but he didn't tap. He didn't want. He's just like, oh, my arm, and the ref had to stop it, obviously. So that's how he lost it. So he's a tough son of a gun, and came back from that, got healthy 5-6 months later. Fought again, then fought in December, I believe it was, won the belt back, and then was supposed to make his UFC debut, I think a month or two ago, and had I believe it was a day of scratch. It was a day of or the day before. So I've been excited about this kid. I'm a little surprised by the line because Connolly, I know he hasn't fought in a while, and it was a neck injury, so you worry about ring rust, but that guy came off short notice and got a big win, and so I'm picking Sabatini. I think he's awesome. He's one of my favorite prospects to watch right now. I'm super excited to see him fight. But yeah, so I'm picking Sabatini. I think I don't like the line, but I think he can still win. So I'm excited, and should be a fun fight.
That's to kick off the prelims. Then we get to the middleweight. Carl Baby K Roberson, 9-3. He's a 130 underdog coming off a loss in June of 2020 to Marvin Vettori, which, in my opinion, I think Vettori is a legit, a legit middleweight. He's been he went the distance, I think, in his last 2 fights, and then he won by sub, I believe, over Baby K, but he's, went the distance. So he's not
Vettori's top
people.
3. You can't dispute it. He lost to the top 3 middleweight. 100%. Yeah.
And then you got Brandon Allen Allen, 15-4, minus 155 favorite. He's coming off a loss too, as well, but won 2 in a row before that. So I think he fought 3 times in 2020. And I think this is going to be a pretty interesting fight. Very, very engaging. And I'm going to go with Brandon Allen Allen on this one. Another favorite.
Brendan Allen.
What'd I say, Brandon?
Sounded like it, but it's fine. So this is one of those styles make fights, right? So Roberson likes to strike a little more. Allen likes the ground, the subs. I'll just say my pick right away. I'll talk in more detail, but I think Allen gets the win. He's young. He's only in his mid-20s, and he seems to be getting better. Some of those losses were kind of early in his career, and he was fighting future UFC fighters. I mean, he's never fought schlubs, or at least he's never lost to guys that weren't UFC caliber. So I like him a lot. Roberson, both are Dana White Contender Series alums. Roberson had a decent amount of hype and knocking people out, and that's what you do on that show, right? You get a quick finish, and people think you're this next big thing.
Next big,
yeah, and then you move on up and realize, some of these guys don't work out so well. But I'm going to take Allen. I like his striking ability. He did get TKO by Sean Strickland, who's a long, lanky striker who I actually like a lot. I don't think Roberson will be able to utilize the range as well as Strickland did. So I think Allen can get in, close the distance, get to the ground, and I don't think Roberson will be able to stop it. So I will go Brendan Allen.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting fight for sure. Then we got a welterweight bout after that. We got Dwight the Body Snatcher Grant, 10-3, 220 favorite, and Stefan Sekulich, 12-3, 180 underdog. I believe that Sekulich is 0-1 in the UFC, and his last fight was in September of 2018. So a little bit, I honestly I don't know who this guy is, just to be honest. And the only reason I'm picking Grant in this one is because of his, last fight was in August of 2020. So he has some rings, but he is 36 years old. So it's kind of this, I don't know much. I don't think I'm not interested in this fight, to be honest, but it is on the card and it's in the middle. And we've talked about that before, how it's kind of in the middle. They throw these middle fights in there just to, see what these guys are made of. I think they both need to win just to stay around in the UFC. So I'm taking the Body Snatcher just due to the nickname, because that's pretty solid to me.
Yeah, so Dwight Grant's another one of those Dana White Contender Series. Big prospect, got a quick finish. He was doing well, and then he got beat by Daniel Rodriguez in August, who's been on a tear lately. So losing to him is no shameful
Loss
thing.
for sure.
So yeah. So Sekulich, one of those former Yugoslavian area guys, Serbian, coming off a decision loss to Amiv in September 18th. So he got suspended by USADA for 2 years. So this is his return from a 2-year suspension.
There we go. I was looking for that.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. Let me run. I got this.
I love it.
So he's coming off and he was coming off an injury, and he took some substances, and he makes no excuses. He said that, it was his fault, but he didn't check what was in the substances, is what he said, and they ended up being banned, and so he got suspended for 2 years. So I don't know if he's just on contracts that the UFC had to give him a fight, but I was a little surprised at 36 and 2 years you saw a suspension for a guy that really is an unknown and 0-1. I'm a little surprised they gave him a shot, but this is probably win or go home. I mean, or at least put on an impressive fight. He's never won the UFC. So, I'm going to go Dwight Grant. This is one of those tricky lines. I just don't know. I don't know enough about Sekulich, and coming off a 2-year, and not just a two and a half year layoff, but he had that tough injury, and then USADA, who knows? I mean, hopefully he stayed in shape, but you just never know. So, but Grant likes it on the feet. I think that's where he's gonna try to keep it and look for one of those body snatching victories. So I will go
body snatcher.
I will go
the body snatcher. Man, okay. Well, the main fight on the prelims, I think, is a pretty damn good one. Charles, and as you say, the original cowboy, right?
The real cowboy.
The real cowboy. That's right. The real
I'm
cowboy.
Kidding, but yes.
I know, but because you like to give me a little smoke about my Donald Cowboy Cerrone likeness. So yeah, we got Alex Cowboy Oliveira, 22-9, 125 underdog. This guy has fought, since 2015 in the UFC, but he's, got 31 fights or whatever. I like him a lot. And then Randy Rude Boy Brown, 12-4, 150 favorite now, pro since 2014. And with Oliveira, you never count these Brazilian guys out, man. Like you think, frick, I think that, I think he's going to get this win, even being an underdog. And in the main event of the prelim, I like it. So I'm going with Oliveira on this one.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at the line. And I know I say that a lot, but like, so I look at the card and I'm just like kind of looking through who I think and who I just off the top of my head, right? Who I want to win or who I think will win. And so I thought Randy Brown would be, I'm picking Randy Brown and I'll get into it and more. But when I saw the line, I was actually surprised he was the favorite. So Oliveira just lost to an undefeated prospect. And I thought it was a little bit of a surprise, but Shavkat Rakhmonov. But, this guy's
by sub.
And he lost his last fight. He missed weight in his last fight. So you worry a little bit about, can he get the weight down? So Randy Brown's an interesting one. He came off Dana White looking for a fight. So not Contender Series, but the UFC Fight Pass or YouTube show where Dana went to local. That's how he found Mickey Gall, the guy that fought CM Punk. But
yeah, with
went
Matt
to these
Serra.
went to these local shows and did stuff in the local area, went to restaurants, did crazy stuff, whatever. So he was one of the first ones. And so he was a huge prospect. And so to be 6-4 in the UFC, I don't think he's lived up to his hype. He has some nice wins over Warley Alves, who is a decent prospect, who is actually outside of Usman, the only guy to beat Colby Covington. I think I'm right on that. He definitely beat Colby. I think that's the only two. And then Randy Brown beat Brian Barberina, Mickey Gall. So he's beat some good prospect-based guys. I've always been waiting for him to take that next step. He's he's one of those mixed martial arts, that's the sport. But what I mean by that is he does everything pretty well, but he seems to be more of a grappler. Like he grew up in an MMA gym. He wasn't a wrestler that transitioned over, right? So those guys are always interesting to me. Oliveira kind of can do everything. He can knock you out. He can sub. He's definitely rounded. I think he has more of a jiu-jitsu background just being from Brazil, but he likes to keep it on the feet. I'm going to go Brown. I like Brown, but I think this is a good fight. This is a lot of these fights on the prelims, I think are going to be really fun to watch, and being on ESPN, people can watch them for free. So
yeah,
definitely might not have a huge name recognition to some of those casuals, but I think the fights for the most part will live up and be really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think that's a very good main event card. And I was looking to see, it looks like Alex Oliveira is, 500 in his last 6 fights, and he's 3-3. But he had 2 wins in a row, and then that loss that you referenced to Rakhmonov. So this is definitely going to be a must watch for people, and a little teaser to that here in a little bit. But then we get to the to the main card, right?
I see what you're putting down. I know what you're talking about.
You referenced to it too. You almost gave it away.
Well, I'm not doing that. I'll say that. That's not mine. And this is a great fight.
This is a great fight, 100%. And then we get to the main card. The main card, and wow, the main card is what the pay-per-view is all about, right? We usually talk about, how, sometimes there's something on the main card that just doesn't fit. I think all these fights fit on the main card, in my opinion. And we got a light heavyweight to kick it off. Number 6, Anthony Lionheart Smith. Lots of fights, 34-16, 170 underdog, and 18 TKOs, 13 subs. I just realized, and I probably said this on the last time we did a talk about him too. He's only 32. He did win his last fight in November by a sub over Devin Clark via a triangle choke in round 1. And I think I'm going to have to eat crow pie on this, because I believe I said he has to win to stay, if I remember correctly. And because he was on like a 2-fight losing streak back then. And he just wasn't looking. I mean, that was the one where someone threw in the towel for him, right? Was that right? Was that the one where
the fight before he won, you mean?
Yeah.
I
Or
think
two
it went
fights?
the distance. No, well, so he got smoked by Glover.
Yeah.
And they might have thrown in the towel on that one. That was a midweek Fight Island fight or something like that. Or maybe not Fight Island, but it was on free TV post COVID. And then no, Rakic, I don't think they threw in the towel. He just got dismantled.
Dismantled. Yeah. I mean, he got beat a little bit, and then he's fighting number 13 ranked light heavyweight Jim Crute, 12-1 from Australia, 190 or 200 favorite now. He's got 5 TKOs. The thing I like about, I mean, Lionheart's been around, since 2008, competed in Strikeforce and Bellator. Crute made his MMA debut at age 19 in Australia, but he came from the Dana White Contender Series, as a lot of these guys are now. And in 2018 is when Crute came from there. I'm going on a limb on this one, bro. Like, I just have a feeling that, that Lionheart's going to come back and do some damage and put his name back in there. He's still ranked number 6, and he's ranked number 6 for a reason. So I'm going with Lionheart on this one.
Yeah, and I like Anthony Smith. He's a cerebral guy. He'll do a lot of up at the desk, and one of these fighters is smart and has a good camp, and I think has usually a pretty good game plan. I think for him, he's undersized at 205, and so he used to fight at 185, and he almost depleted his body too much. Now he fights at 205, and he got to a title shot, but I mean, he admitted this in an interview. He knocked out Rashad Evans, who was on his way out. He knocked out Shogun on his way out. So, I mean, the guys he was beating were legends, but they were past their prime a little bit, and really good matchups for him stylistically from a stand-up. When he got into trouble was Jones, who's John Jones, obviously the best ever. So anyone could have that, but it's the grappling. It's keeping him down. Rakic just basically laid on him for 5 rounds, and Glover took him down and just kind of pummeled him. And it's, you could look at takedown defense and not being able to get up. It's also, if you're at a size disadvantage, he's not at a height disadvantage, but from a size disadvantage, he probably should be fighting at 195 if that was a weight class, but he's not. And 185 probably depletes his body too much, so it's worth it to stay at 205. But he's undersized, and I think Crute will exploit that. He's a big prospect. He did get beat with a Peruvian necktie from, I forget his name now, Misha Serkinov, a couple of years ago. Who's also it was a good fighter, but Crute had a ton of hype coming off Dana White Contender Series, finished the guy, and he's young. I mean, I just think he's going to use his strength. He to me, he's well rounded. He can strike, but he's got a little bit of a grappling base to him, and I think the blueprint's out on how to beat Smith. And it's put pressure, get him to the ground, wear him out. And I'm not saying he quits, because I don't think he does, but
he just can't bounce back from that.
Well, he's kind of a turtle. Like, he can't get up. If you can't get up, you can't, like, it is
we'll
what
get
it
into
is.
That later too.
Yeah. So at least in some of his fights, right? Like, he struggled. So I think Crute exploits it and wins. I think he wins pretty easily. And one thing I will say is, good on Smith, the 6th ranked guy fighting a big prospect like this. I think it's awesome when a fringe top 5 guy, former title contender, takes a risk. So I think it will bring the best out in Smith. I just think Crute's I'm a big fan of Crute. I think he's I gotta say he's a future champ, but that division's wide open with Jones gone and Adesanya not winning the belt. So Crute could be, a year from now, we could be talking about Crute fight for a title.
Nice. Good insight from Mark Sutich, as always. And then we get into the middleweight. Number 9, Uriah Primetime Hall, 16-9. No relation to me yet.
Couldn't tell.
Maybe there's the 23andMe or something like that. Hey, maybe we sponsor for that. 20, might say otherwise if we go back into the DNA, but he's a 105 underdog, runner up on the Tough Enough in 2000, or the Ultimate Fighter in 2013, as we've discussed many times before. 3-fight win streak, and the last fight was Anderson Silva, and we all know, that was not a pretty fight. Never probably should have happened. Didn't need to happen. in my opinion. And then number 11, Chris All-American Weidman, 15-5, minus 125 favorite. You know, after losing the middleweight belt to Luke Rockhold in 2015, he's 2-4 coming off a decision win in August of 2020. Just a quick note on Uriah Hall. You know, he went the distance when he was, you know, fairly new in the fight game in 2015 with Robert Whitaker. But he's also fought Derek Brunson and Gegard Moussaoui and then Paulo Costa.
Why do you always mess that name up? Mousasi.
What'd I say?
Moussaoui?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I'm good at
Gegard's a legend. Gegard's Gegard. So anytime you mess his name up, I get mad.
Hey, you have to. You have to keep me in check.
It's my guy. Love Gegard.
You know, I don't know. I don't know about Weidman in this. I mean, I think dang it. I need this new laptop to come in really soon. What the hell is going on right now? I have something I need to say. You know, he did, like I said, he's coming off a win in August of 2020. It was a unanimous decision or whatnot. Then the losses before that were Dominic Reyes and then Jacare Souza, right? So I just don't. I think someone like Weidman needs to be, not in my opinion, I'd like to see him be more active. Okay. And him not being as active, if he wants to talk about a belt and all that and how he's coming for the title and then he's going to defend it once and retire. I don't think this is one of those fights that he can get away with. I like Uriah Hall in this one, prime time.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, and I haven't watched it, but these two fought before. So they fought before in 2010. So how often is it that you get a rematch 11 years later? They fought in it's another Northeast promotion. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but Cage Fury or something. No, that's CFS.
Ring of Combat.
Ring of Combat.
Yeah.
So, because Weidman was one of these guys, you don't see it a lot anymore at all. He came in 4-0. He came out of the UFC into the UFC with a 4-0 record, with one of those wins being against Hall, and he beat him in the first round, and then
Punches,
Weidman went on. Yep. So anyway, he went on a meteoric rise, won the title, had all this hype, beat the best of all time at the time in Anderson Silva. Uriah Hall came on Ultimate Fighter, looked like the real deal, kind of got some losses, just didn't work out for him. So Hall has always been naturally gifted. This goes back to kind of, in my mind, the Roberson-Allen fight where styles make fights. I think you have a pure striker and a pure wrestler. And Weidman's tried to strike. You know, he knocked out Silva, and so he thinks he can strike, but it's different, right? Uriah Hall just has different game sets or game plan and tool set. So if it stays on the feet, Hall wins. If it goes to the ground, Weidman wins. I think Hall can clip him. So I'm not super confident in this pick, but I'm going to go with Uriah Hall.
Ooh, another teaser. Good job, Mark. Good job.
But I would like to see Weidman. I like Weidman.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing against the guy. I just
like Hall too, but although when I bait Weidman, he was kind of when I met him, he was kind of cocky. So I don't know. I'm on the fence.
Yeah. So you're going with Hall in this one too? You said?
I'm gonna go Hall. Yeah.
Yeah. Good choice. Keeping the name.
This could be boring. Like this could be a horrible fight, or it could be an amazing fight. It's one of those. I think it's placed on the pay-per-view card because of name, right? Weidman, former champion. So I don't dispute it. I don't mind it. I like it. It's just one of those trap fights in a bad way to me that you just don't know how it could go, because when Hall engages, he's electric.
Yeah,
and when Weidman's what he used to be, even with his wrestling, he's a blanket and he can sub you and he can ground and pound, and he's really good. Now he says he's motivated. He says he's been taking it serious. They all do. So we'll see. But can he get Hall to the ground? I feel like he can, but I just have a feeling Hall's going to pick him apart.
Yeah, I think it could be a coin flip right there in the matchup for sure. Women's flyweight title bout. Wow. the next 3 fights, bro, hopefully we can get through these in a timely manner. But with the way I think this is going to go, I don't know if we can. So this is just for all the people out there because they're going to love these top 3 fights. Like we said, the whole card's pretty awesome. The champion Valentina Bullet-Shevchenko, 20-3, minus 450 favorite as of tonight when I checked. And, you know, her only 2 of her 3 losses have been against the GOAT, Amanda Nunes, against number 1, Jessica Andrade, 21-8, 350 underdog. She's coming off a win over Caitlin Chukagian in round 1. Looked pretty damn good, solid, scary, in my opinion. 2 losses before that against Weili Zhang in 2019 and Thug Rose in 2020, right? The interesting fact, and in this one that is, I think, besides the fact that Shevchenko is a beast and just amazing, you know, she does have like a 4.5-inch reach advantage, and she's a little bit taller, obviously. But Andrade has some power. She's got a lot of power in her hands, which is scary because, you know, in my opinion, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, I don't think Shevchenko's been hit in the face too many times, like a Rose or a Weili, who have, you know, put on, you know, battles against Joanna Jędrzejczyk for real. So I'm going with the favorite Shevchenko in this one.
Yeah, so Shevchenko fought Joanna, and she get punched in the face because she took her down and beat the crap out of her for 5 rounds. Like she has this way, like you said, she lost twice to Nunes, and I was talking to my buddy about this because he sent me the interview. That second fight, I don't think she lost, and she didn't think she lost. And I mean, she was super upset, but she fought arguably the greatest of all time from a female perspective, and at an unnatural weight class, and didn't get touched. And part of that speed and, you know, precision, getting in and out and using range. So she's just really good at that. Now, Andrade is no joke, and former strawweight champion, like you said, and she's 5'1", so she's really, really short. But it's interesting. She came in the UFC at 135 at bantamweight, dropped to 115, and then went on a tear. Ended up getting the title shot against Joanna, lost to Joanna. Ended up getting the title shot to Rose, was losing to Rose, but dropped her on her head, knocked her out. And then obviously then Weili ended up knocking her out in the first round. So she's tough. She's battle tested. She's fought the best. She doesn't have as many knockouts that I would expect for as knockout power. But if you've never seen her knockout of Karolina Kowalkiewicz, it's violent. I mean, when she hits your chin out, we've talked about Valentina in these massive lines. This is her closest fight from a betting perspective in like years. And it's still a 4.5 to 1 favorite. She's just, and her last fight was pretty close. And I've talked to some people about this because she might have lost a round, or the first round was really close. And people, she's going to lose. She still won 4 rounds to 1. Dominant win. And so people have these crazy expectations that she's supposed to just knock everyone out, or like winning 80% of the rounds isn't good enough. That's the expectations for her. And it's crazy. So I think Andrade is a live dog just because of, you know, dynamite in her hand, so to speak. But I'm going Valentina. I think she's well-rounded. She can sub. She's, you know, she's a kickboxer, but she's really good with her submission. Submitted Juliana Pena at 135. Again, not her natural weight class. Beat Holly Holm, not her natural weight class at 135, because 125 didn't exist. And Holm's a former champ, and Pena's fighting for the belt here coming against Nunes. So, and I think she beat Nunes. So it is what it is. I'm going Shevchenko. I think she's the best pound for pound. I know everyone's like, oh, how can you say that? Nunes is the GOAT. I think she beat her. And I think at that weight class, she's just so well-rounded. Like, Nunes wins fights, but I don't think she's as well-rounded as Valentina is. I don't know. It's just something about the way she fights that she can sub you easily, knock you out easily. She's got highlight reel
with
of both. It's just crazy. Not that Nunes isn't good. I don't know. I think Valentina's pound for pound best. So at that weight, her 125-pound version she's a killer.
Is amazing. I love it for sure. And then we get to the co-main, which is women's strawweight title bout between the champion Weili Magnum Zhang, 21-1, 200 favorite. And excuse me, I have an interesting fact that her only pro loss was her first fight. And it was weird because it was a 2-round fight in 2013. And Weili has a win over Joanna in 2020, fought Andrade in August 2019 that we just talked about. And then the number one contender is Thug Rose Namajunas, 10-4, a 170 underdog, former strawweight champion, coming off a win over Andrade in 2020 July as well. And then after, in that win, she revenged the loss that she lost to Andrade in 2019. Thug Rose when she's on her game, she is just on her game. And she is definitely one of those number one for a reason in my book. I mean, I like her a lot. I really like watching her fight. And then, her fights against Joanna were probably some of the best. They are some of the best women's fights that you'll ever see. So I'm going with the underdog on this one. And a lot of it probably is because I think that she's just, I think she has a decent ground game if she can take Weili down. And even if she can strike with Weili, I think it's going to be pretty solid as well. So we'll see how that fight goes, but I'm going with Rose on this one. Thug Rose. Give her some respect.
This one's interesting to me. So I was listening to someone on an MMA site, and they were talking about, what challenger of the 3 title fights has the best chance. And someone was like, oh my, Rose is light years ahead of all women in striking. She's so amazing. Well, then why is she 9-4? If she's that good and she's that amazing, why does she have 5 fights in the last 4 years and she's 9-4? Like, I'm not saying she's not good, but it's like people get blinded because she knocked out Joanna. She knocked out the Boogie Woman when no one could beat her. And then the Andrade knockout was a little bit of a fluke. But when she lost to Tisha Torres, when she lost to Karolina Kowalkiewicz, they were legit losses. And I'm missing one in there. But
Esparza in 2014.
Yeah. So that's right. That was for the title originally. Like, those were legit losses. And so I think some people are still not completely sold on Weili. And so, I mean, let's just say it. Like, last year's fight with Joanna was arguably the fight of the year. There was 3 fights last year, right? It was Hooker, Poirier, Moreno, Figueiredo, and Wayne or Wayne, Weili and Joanna.
Yeah.
And I think that was. I think that was probably the fight of the year. It was one of the best fights I've ever seen. And because of that, I think a lot of people are like, well, she barely beat Joanna and Rose beat Joanna, and Rose barely beat Andrade last year. It was a split decision. And so when you start doing this MMA math, and there's a little bit of an unknown with Weili, because she won the title in just over a year, I think it was. Like, yeah. So just over a year in the roster, part of it's timing and getting an opportunity. She was the champ. And so people just, similar to Peter Yan, right? I don't think a lot of people knew. Now, granted, he lost to Aljamain, but I think everyone would agree that watched that fight, he was winning. A lot of people just didn't know how good he was or could be. I think it's a little bit with her too, because when she did knock out Andrade and won the title, it was I don't know where it was, whether it was Singapore or something, maybe it was China, but it was really early in the morning here. And so I actually woke up and caught it on Fight Pass and watched the replay. So not a lot of exposure for Weili. Rose has been on a lot of these cards. She main events against, Paige and Karate Hottie and these different girls. And then she wins the title against Joanna on one of the biggest cards ever. And so I don't even think this fight's close. I think Weili easily wins. Easily. Oh boy. Like, I just, I don't trust Rose. She's got a good coach. She's got a good skill set. I don't trust her mental game. I don't trust her inactivity, 5 fights in 4 years. I don't trust where this going back to the mental a little bit. And I'm more talking about like the bus incident where, I can't fight because, Connor threw a dolly through the window. Like she seems to crumble in certain moments. And so you just don't know if she's going to be ready. But I don't know if you heard, she said some controversial stuff about she's of Lithuanian descent. And so she said better dead than red, meaning communist in China. And it's like, really? Like that's where your head's at? So just stuff like that. Like she's a great fighter. I know a lot of people really like her. And I'm not saying I'm a big Weili fan, but here, if you want to know who I think is going to win from a betting line, I think it's Weili all day. She's a tank. She puts pressure. It's basically a finesse striker versus a power striker. That's how I look at it. So if Rose can keep it on the outside, she'll probably have some range. She's got long legs. I mean, she came in when I saw Rose's first fight. She did a flying armbar in Invicta. She's a really good striker. Like she's a really good boxer. She uses her kicks a little bit too, but she's gonna have to circle. This will be a theme in our next one. Circle and just punch and kick and keep range. I don't know if Weili's going to try to take her down, but she's more of a blitz type striker, punches and bunches. Mike Swick back in the day, my guy, like stuff like that, where I think her pressure, I think Weili's pressure will be too much over 5 rounds. I don't doubt Rose's cardio. I just think that type of pressure is tough to put up with for 25 minutes.
So
if it gets that far.
As I referenced to before with Chris Weidman not being active, and I don't like that. I do like Rose not being active because I think that's good for her head game. But like you said, she does have 4 losses. If she's this great, then how come she isn't more active and has, less losses?
I think, sorry to cut you off. I think one thing I'll say is you can look back maybe in 5-10 years from now, 15 years from now. I look at fighters and I say, that was kind of and I don't mean this rudely, but kind of a waste of talent. You see certain fighters, boxers. I say Mike Tyson's a waste of talent. Like for what he did in his early years, right? Like he wasted 5 years of his career making stupid decisions. He could have been, best ever, and he's still widely regarded. So knowing how I think about these things, I think Rose, you can look back 10, 15 years from now and say, potentially, depending on how her trajectory goes, she was a waste of talent. She has arguably as much talent as anybody. I don't dispute people saying that she has this talent with the hands and her well-roundedness, but why does she lose consistently? If you have that much talent, you shouldn't be losing this consistently. And, so to me, I have nowhere else to go except mental. And so is she ready? And maybe she's trying to make it personal with the better dead than red or whatever. And I'm sorry if that offends anyone. I'm literally reading a quote. But,
I didn't hear that yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, it's interesting. So maybe that's her me mug, right? Her
weird
via words where she needs to hype herself up. But yeah, I worry about that. I always have. And I think Weili gets it.
That's interesting to hear. I'm glad I haven't heard that part of it yet. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for that fight. I really am. So
I'm too. Oh yeah.
We'll see. So then we get to the welterweight title bout, and I think this is very interesting, and I wish I could have found this stat earlier. So, let's just start with this. The champion Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman, 18-1, as we all know. We've talked about him plenty of times on our UFC podcast, Mark. 450 favorite. Last fight, obviously, against Gilbert Burns in February. And a rematch against the number 4 Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. Lots of fights, 35-14. 350 underdog. These guys fought back in Fight Island in July 2020. We all know 6 days notice. Both of them had 6 days notice. Masvidal dropped all that weight in a week because he's a fighter. Didn't make any excuses. Got ragdolled, laid on. And it was what, like 50-46 or whatever the hell
I think it was 50-45 on two cards.
45, yeah.
49-46. But I think a lot of people thought it was like 50-43. I mean, it wasn't even close.
Yeah, it wasn't even close, right? And we all saw it. We all know that wasn't close fight. This, and I think I'm going to be able to say that I'm not 100% excited about this fight, but in a way I am excited about this fight, because if Masvidal is the fighter that he says he is, and he at least attempts, and he's got any better over the last months of training for Usman, that he can stop a takedown 2 or 3 times out of the 12 or 15 times that Usman's going to attempt to take him down in this fight. And I mean, it probably won't even be that many, because if once Usman gets on you, he does that lock. Like, what was it called, Mark? Your boy Habib.
He doesn't do no Dagestani handcuffs.
He doesn't do Dagestani handcuffs. So
hey,
I mean,
Marty from Nebraska don't know how handcuffs. Marty from Nebraska, the real MMA fans know how fake this guy is. Marty from Nebraska, that's coming. That's your champion.
I like it. I know you got a lot to say about this, so I'm gonna let you go. But I do want to say that I don't know how excited I am for this fight, but I am on the Masvidal train. For some reason, I just have a feeling that he might be able to do it. And as we talked about with the Usman's and Covington fight, I mean, Usman actually looked, I mean, not actually, but he looked really good in that Covington fight with the jab. And even against Covington, hate him or, love him or hate him or whatever, Covington's pretty damn good fighter, right? But Usman looked really good in that fight. I don't know if Usman's going to be undefeated in the UFC forever. His one loss isn't in the UFC, if I remember correctly. And I'm jumping on the Masvidal train. I'm only doing it because he's an underdog. And you know how I like the underdogs. So, it's going to be a great fight no matter what. I'm hoping it's a great fight for the main event. So we'll see how both of these fighters, step up on the main card. So Masvidal talks a lot of shit how he's the greatest. So let's see it. I'm giving him a shot.
That's all posturing, but you can't be the greatest with 14 losses. Sorry, it just is what it is. So yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. So I'm excited for any title fight. So I'm excited for it from a history-making standpoint and see the fight. Now, the fact that we saw it 9 months ago, I don't care how many days notice. And it wasn't pretty. Yeah, it was so one-sided and so boring. And it was what I thought it was going to be. My Dennis Green moment. They are who we thought they were.
They are right? Who we thought they were.
I mean, that's what it was. And so as Masvidal worked on his takedown defense, I'm sure he has. So my issue is this fight shouldn't happen. This fight should not happen. Why is Usman talking about lapping people, talking about how great he is with 3 title defenses? George St. Pierre, love him or hate him, laps people. 9 title defenses. And you're talking about you're the best. 9 title defenses to your 3. And you're running your mouth like he's dominant. Cool. Who was his toughest fight? Colby Covington. Wasn't even close. Covington was 3-1 going into the 5th and 2-2 on one of the cards. And then Usman was 3-1 on the other one. He was potentially losing that fight. Good on him. He got to finish. That was his toughest fight. And instead of taking that fight, he's running his mouth saying Colby hasn't earned it. Colby beat a former champion in Woodley. And I get, we've talked about Woodley, but he beat Woodley. What's Masvidal done in the last 9 months besides nothing? This is an easy fight for Usman. I hope Masvidal ices him because he's being so cocky about it. I don't like either fighter personally. I'm picking Usman. I want Masvidal to smoke him. Now, the problem is if it happens, there's going to be a trilogy, so it mucks up the division. And similar to when Bisping won the middleweight title, no offense to that guy, I was just like,
that's
really?
A good point.
that's the champion. And so if Masvidal is the champion, I'm like, really? That's the champion? 3 years ago, no one gave a shit about this guy. So what Jorge did now I'm off my soapbox and with Marty from Nebraska. So you can look that up if you don't know what I'm referencing.
No, I've heard Marty from Nebraska a hell of times. Yeah.
So anyway, Jorge, what he did in the first fight that I liked was he came out aggressive. And part of it, I think he was on 6 days notice. He probably was a little worried about cardio. They say they're always in shape, but he knows the kind of pace that Usman can put on. And let me be clear, Usman's amazing. I think his when he talks trash, it's so fake, it's so contrived, it's so awkward, it's not funny, it's not, he's talking about green panty night. It's green panty night when you fight him. Okay, Connor troll, like just keep rubbing off of Connor, everybody. Come up with your own stuff. So if you're not good at it, don't try to be. And he does, and he says weird things. George St. Pierre is the clear number one welterweight of all time. And so for him to go on these tangents, like he's even close to that level yet, he could get there. He's not there yet as far as resume is concerned. So I'd like him to be a little bit more, not as cocky in that regard. But anyway, so when they fought the first time, Jorge went out, he blitzed him, kicks, body kick. I remember that, up against cage. That's what he needs to do. He needs a circle, in my opinion. Stay obviously, and this isn't rocket science, right? Everyone knows that Usman wants to get it to the ground and control. What I would love is for him to get cocky and try to stand with Jorge for 5 rounds. Try it. See what happens. You're fishing with dynamite in the wrong way. And so
you think he's going to try to do that since he did that with Colby though?
Colby's a wrestler. Colby's a all-American wrestler. So that was wrestling negating wrestling. So that made perfect sense. Jorge is a striker.
Yeah, he's definitely
So
solid.
Colby and Usman are very similar fighters. They're pace-wise and how they're very similar. And so it could have made for a really boring fight. That fight was great. It was a great fight. So I'd love to see it again. But in my opinion, it should be Leon Edwards or Colby Covington. You got these 3 guys at the top of the division. Usman's beat them all. One was a long time ago. Edwards is on this huge streak. Colby gave him his toughest fight a year and a half ago, and he's since beat a former champion. And Usman, Masvidal, he easily beat, and he's fighting him 9 months later because he did make a lot of money off that fight. It got 1.3 million pay-per-view eyes or whatever. It should be easy money. I think as a champion, be smart. I think Usman's doing a good business decision. I think he's doing a poor fighting the best. I think he's poor from a competitive standpoint because he called Masvidal out, and I don't think that he's fighting the toughest fight. Now, that being said, if Masvidal can circle, hit him with the bite strikes, punch, he's going to get grappled unless he, knocks him out in the first 20 seconds, right? He's going to go through grappling, and Usman will drain the gas tank, so to speak.
Wear him down for sure.
And I don't think he's going to strike with him for significant periods. But if he decides to, it makes it a much more interesting fight. Burns rocked Usman in that fight in March or whenever that was. So it'll be interesting. I think it very easily can be a carbon copy. Why wouldn't it be a carbon copy? The biggest
dumb not to do it again.
The biggest element that you could say, it's going to be different is 6 days notice. But Usman is who he is. He's always been a grappler. The only time he really tried to strike significant, I know he finished Burns, but is when he's fighting other grapplers. Masvidal can grapple. He's capable. That's not what he's known for. That's not where he gets his highlight reels, right? He's a striker. And so Usman, love him or hate him, he is a really good fighter. He's an amazing fighter. He's a smart fighter. I think someone needs to take the mic out of his face because in a lot of these guys, that they try to be little Connors, and you can't do it. Like there's only Colby has a shtick that drives you nuts. I know that. And it drives a lot of people nuts. But it's a shtick. It's completely contrived and just trying to get people to love him or hate him and it's a heel WWE wrestling persona. Yep. What Usman's doing, I don't know. Like, I think he actually thinks the stuff he says makes sense. And it's like, like he's some badass. To me, it makes him sound like a paper champion. Now, it's just weird, man. It's just so. I met him.
He definitely
super
doesn't
nice
have
to
any
me.
PR skills for sure.
Yeah, it's not like, you know, WWE. You can have a Paul Heyman talk for your Brock Lesnar, right? So you don't have that in
Right.
MMA. So I get it. I don't care who you are. Just be yourself. Now I get it. That doesn't always sell. Demetrius Johnson, great fighter. Him being himself, unfortunately, doesn't sell pay-per-view buys because, you know, he's a nice guy. He comes off like a nice guy. So it's like Usman's kind of stuck in that in between, and I think he actually thinks he's a draw. And this probably will sell a lot, but let's be honest, it's because of Masvidal. I don't know what the Burns fight sold. I don't even know if it got released because the numbers were probably too low. But like, diehards love those fights. So I'm gonna watch them all. But come on, no one's like, oh, I got to see Kamaru fight again. Like, he's not there yet. George was. St. Pierre was boring, but he had a country behind him. People loved him. There was something about it that he resonated. I just don't think Usman has hit that yet. And I think part of it is because he just comes off kind of, I won't say fake. He just comes off awkward.
Very awkward. Like you said, he doesn't have those talking skills. Like 100%, you're 100% Mark, 100% right, Mark, is that he just doesn't have the skills to come off of attempting to be that Conor or attempting to just promote a fight. Like, he's not promoting and he's not getting fans to watch this fight because of how he brings in the draw, in my opinion. Not even close.
No, and I mean, if you're such a draw, I'm just going to be a jerk here for a minute. Hang on, hold, please. If you're such a big draw, so Conor's a draw, right? Like we've talked about this. When you watch a Conor pay-per-view, it's the Conor fight and then a bunch of kind of, you know, let's be honest, like it's all based off of what Conor's doing. So UFC 258. Is the pay-per-view buys in there? No. That one was actually, he was the headliner. There was no title fights. But the fight before that, 3 title fights. Fight before that, 3 title fights. The pay-per-view before that, he was the co-main event to John Jones and Anthony Smith. So if he's the draw he thinks he is, in this fight, 3 title fights, why do they keep putting him on cards with other title fights? Now, it's a cool card. I'm super pumped. But look at a guy like Conor. Look at a guy like Brock Lesnar besides UFC 100. They didn't put any other title fights on those cards because they knew they'd sell no matter what. He's not that guy, and I don't think he ever will be. And that's not a bad thing. Stipe Miocic, love the guy. He's not a big draw. It just is what it is. And so John Jones isn't a huge draw, and he's the best ever. Mighty Mouse, not a huge draw. It doesn't make you a bad person or a bad fighter. Now, is it impacting your bank account? Maybe. And do you want to change that? Cool. Great. I get it. But let's be clear. If we're talking A side and B side from a popularity standpoint, I'm not saying I understand it or agree with it. Jorge's the A. Usman's the C.
The C, right?
Like he's from a drawing perspective. Like, I'm not talking about talent. I'm talking about drawing perspective. And so
drawing that money and getting those pay-per-view buys, baby.
I would love to see the Burns, because that's right. You know, you got the 2 Usman Masvidal cards, and then you got the Burns card, but there's no pay-per-view buy shown for it. Because I mean, even in post-COVID, all these pay-per-views have got a little bit of a bump, right? I don't know if that one broke 500. Seriously. So
that's probably why it doesn't show. So
seriously,
are you going with Usman on this one?
I am. Yeah, I don't want him to win. I'm gonna try to find some Howlerhead whiskey, support the UFC.
Howlerhead. Hey, Chris, get that Howlerhead sponsor for us.
But anyway, hard to find in this local area. No, I'm gonna have my whiskey and just hang out. And I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a diehard fan. I just want to see great fights. This is similar to the Hall Weidman, right? It could be an amazing finish, amazing fight, but it could have an amazing result, like quick finish, dynamite. Like if Masvidal wins, or it could be really boring for 5 rounds, like last time.
It could be a reminiscence of the fight on fight for sure. I mean,
the only reason. Sorry,
no, go ahead.
The only reason I would even remotely want Usman to win this fight is so Jorge goes away, no more title shots, move on with the division, give the guys that I think deserve the title shots, and then go forward. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not rooting for Usman, but
because
that would
we don't want to see a third one, like you said, 100%.
No,
definitely don't want to see a third one.
But I can't root for that guy.
I hear you. I hear you. Great stuff, Mark. Great stuff. You went on a tangent there. I like it. That's how we do it around here.
I get fired up.
So let's close it out with the filthy casual, the confidence, and the fights we're looking forward to on the next pay-per-view. I'm just gonna spit these off real quick for you. I'm just gonna start with the fight that I'm looking forward to. And the only reason you know what? I'm just going to say the next 2 Saturdays after this one, we got May 1st, we got Dominic Reyes versus Yuri P, our boy, Yuri P.
Mm-hmm.
And then the May 8th, we have Corey Sandhagen and TJ Dillashaw. And the only reason I say that one is because Sandhagen is a G, definitely been doing work in the octagon. And then Dillashaw's been off for 2 years after his suspension?
Something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's coming back. He's a big talker. I want to see those. And then the filthy casual fight that I have, I'm sticking with Cowboy Oliveira and Rude Boy Brown. So it's a main event on the prelims. I think that this is going to get people excited. I think Oliveira is going to come back. I think he's going to do well in this fight, as I referenced to earlier. And I'm just going to spit off my top 5 confidence picks. So I hope you have a pin.
Oh, we're doing 5? I thought you said 3. Okay.
Oh, 3? Sorry.
No, that's fine.
I went with 5.
Dude, I need 5 seconds for this stuff, and I'll figure it out. Don't worry.
I went with the 5 just because I liked all these fights. As my confidence picks, top 1 being most confident, I'm going with Hall, Shevchenko, Rose as the middle woman, Lionheart at 4, and then my sleeper, which I have almost zero confidence in, is Masvidal.
George of the jungle.
George.
Yeah. So I like it. Fights I'm looking forward to. I mean, I think both those main events are just awesome. So Yuri P and Reyes. Yeah, and Yuri P is a guy that, he fought last year in July and knocked out Ozdemir, and so this is a big fight for him. Reyes needs this win, so I think that's going to be an awesome fight. And then seeing Dillashaw's return against a surging Sandhagen will be awesome. A couple fights, one on each of those cards that kind of under the radar that I like. Ion Cutelaba against Dustin Jacoby should be a fantastic fight. And I'm surprised you picked this one. Diego Sanchez and Cowboy Cerrone, Diego's retirement fight. So that's a fun one.
See that.
Yeah, gotta open them eyes. I'm just kidding, but I believe that's on the Dillashaw Sandhagen card. So I have that. Fifth casual fight of the night. I'm going Sabatini and Connolly. I mean, I think there's 2 or 3 just on the prelims that you could pick that I think are going to be great fights. But I really think, Connolly having 13 to 14 finishes and Sabatini's a little savage too. I think it's going to be a great fight. Both have a lot to prove. I mean, it's kind of like Connolly's debut again because it's been so long since he's been there and he was hurt. And so he's got something to prove. So I'm going that. And then confidence picks, I will go most confident Jimmy Crute. And then 2, 3, and 4 are the championship fights. And I'm actually like 100% confident in all of them. I'm really confident. But if I'm going in
definitely
order,
follow Mark on these ones because who
knows? I mean,
you always get the main events right, bro. You really do.
I usually do pretty good on the main, yeah. But I'm gonna go Wei Li is number 2. So Crute 1, Wei Li 2, Kamaru 3, Valentina 4. And that's why I'm kind of saying I'm really confident because for me to pick her, I do think it's a little bit of a tough fight with Andrade, but I still think Valentina wins easily. And in 5, I'm going to go Hall. I think if that gets to the ground, Weidman wins. I think if it stays on the feet, wins, like I said earlier. So it's just, where does it ends up being a coin flip in my mind. So I'm going to go number 5 is Uriah.
Awesome, bro. Hey.
Boom.
Boom. And cast us outside, baby. quote unquote. So, dude, what an amazing night on Saturday we're gonna have. Appreciate you coming on, bro.
Less music than a Triller card, I'll tell you that. But more fights too.
Hey, I apologize in advance to all these people who just listened to this whole thing. I just want to talk about the Triller thing a little bit just to see if anybody else had any reference on that. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Triller. There's got to be a few people out there. So we probably spent a little too much time on that, but still, we got into the main prelims and the main card for sure. So don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Go to thisfunner.com for more podcasts and online content. Grab some merch from the Funner family, as always. It's awesome. Follow me on Twitter at Stix015. Mark, any closing words for these people? You're the man. Appreciate you coming back on. Thanks for sticking it out. What you got, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I went on a tangent in the main event, but let's be honest, 3 title fights, it's awesome. I made the analogy a couple months ago that it's kind of a kid on Christmas when there's these big cards. The main event's or the main card. The main event is awesome, but the main card's awesome. It's gonna sell. It's got a lot of variables of hatred and title fights and prospects, and it's just got a little bit of everything. So I'm excited. It's gonna be awesome. Buy it. It's definitely worth it, and I think it's going to live up to the hype. I do think I will say this, I think the main event will be better than last time. Now, yeah, I don't think that's raising the bar very high. Right. But I do think Masvidal will put on a better performance, and because of that intrigue, I think automatically with the other title fights on there, it makes it awesome.
Yeah, 100% agree. Chris, the producer, appreciate you, bro. Thanks again, man, squeezing us in. Sorry, late notice. So thank you all for listening. We'll be back soon. Tune in. Use the hashtag Stix in Sports. And thanks, everyone. We'll talk soon.
Damn, this is fun.
That was Sports Fix with Stix. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. If you want to join the show, use the hashtag Stix in Sports.